Hi, and welcome to A Punk with Toys. My name is Lawrence, and in this video, I'm starting a new series where I'm going to be rating all the G.I. Joe figures. I'm not ranking them, I'm rating them and what I think they are. And we're going to start with 00 Snake Eyes, and in this video, we're going to go up to number 20. Now, in this video, there's 22 figures. Now, I know people may say 21, that makes sense at 00 Snake Eyes, but I also added in the Regal version of Cobra Commander. I did not do the field variants of the other figures, as I don't think that they were really a different figure. They changed a little bit of the paint schemes. Now, you may say, hey, why would you do Cobra Commander? Well, watch and see, and I'll explain all that to you. Now, you have to remember, we're going into a pandemic at this time. Figures are completely different. There aren't other companies that are pushing G.I. Joe Classified to be better. Hell, they're just coming out to begin with. So we're going to go through each and every single one of these. I will drop in the description a link to every single figure that I've reviewed. No matter how bad those reviews are, I still did do them. I learned a lot from the beginning of that YouTube journey to where I'm at now. I believe Project Director Destro is the only figure that I have not reviewed. So I will plan on going back and doing it because I already have them out. I might as well do the review just so I can say I have them all. But I do believe I have every single other one, and I will drop a link to each and every single one of them, which will be an awful lot. But looking at these, this is just going to be a rating system of what I see. And I don't want people looking back at this video saying, hey, I just watched your other one, and you said that this figure had a bad rating, but he uses the same legs, the same buck that this figure did that you gave a higher rating to. Well, remember, a lot of the tooling hasn't been done yet. There's a lot of things that they didn't fix that maybe they had the tooling at the time when we get to those figures. Now, I'm not planning on having that done tomorrow or next week. Hopefully, I'll have one done next month so I can get the second part. I'm going to do them in 20 figure intervals, or shall I say from 21 to 40, 41 to 60. There's more figures that kind of get wrapped up in that. So there's 3 packs, 2 packs, different things like that. But anyway, let's get into this video. But before we do, please, as I always ask, it helps the channel. Take a second, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification if you've enjoyed this content and the G.I. Joe Classified stuff that I'm giving you. Now, let's get to this. All right, so before we get into ranking these figures, I kind of want to look at the boxing really quick. And we all love this boxing. There was always an issue with the artwork here. Sometimes it looked amazing. Sometimes it wasn't so good, and that had to do with the different artists they were bringing in. But we had this wonderful packaging, this window that everyone loved. You could see the figure, you know, nicely. You had the attributes, and then you had the 08 here. And then we had the back, which shows a figure. It shows all these figures that were coming. We got to kind of guess. They had a lot of Easter eggs. But what I did notice, and maybe I discussed this before, or maybe I didn't. I don't even remember. Because I kind of feel like I just learned it. But anyway, here is 00 Snake Eyes, okay? And here we have this wonderful artwork on it. All right, he doesn't have attributes. He has what looks like probably his Japanese. And we kind of have the same artwork. But what I did notice with the window here is if you look, how it's cut, it is actually the G.I. Joe star, which is not something that I can remember knowing. So maybe it's been so long since I looked at this, I should probably go back and rewatch that 00 Snake Eyes review, as awful as it may be. So anyway, I kind of want to discuss that and kind of mention that before we get started. So now let's get into rating the first, well, 00 Snake Eyes through number 20. Okay, to kick off the G.I. Joe Classified line in 2020, Hasbro released number 00 Snake Eyes Deluxe. This was a Hasbro Pulse exclusive. This figure really set the tone for what would eventually become the G.I. Joe Classified line, but not so much as it started. I gave this figure a pretty high rating. When you look at everything that he comes with, he is clearly Snake Eyes version 2. He does have his Uzi, and he does have his well-known sword that he has throughout the line. He also comes with a weapons rack of different ninja weapons or samurai weapons, whatever you want to call them. But they are martial arts weapons. Now, this rack has never been used again, which is kind of odd, although the weapons we will see used numerous times as we went on. It comes with a much larger box that has the actual 00 box that we'll get to know later on. And then it also comes with the an art drawing of what is embossed on the larger box that he comes with. So with this figure, everything that he has, there's nothing pinless yet on this, but everything is double jointed. He moves really smoothly, comes with the knife. Also, this guy I gave a 9 rating because of how good he is. And I did go really high to begin with because, in all honesty, I thought they knocked it absolutely out of the park with this figure. So here we have number 01 in the G.I. Joe Classified line, and that is Roadblock. Now, looking at this figure, he is clearly derived from the version 2 of the Real American Hero. Now, when I started doing reviews, this was one of the reasons why I did it. I didn't know anything about the toy industry. I didn't know what G.I. Joe was going for, but I was comparing them to what I thought was the closest version that they had, and I compared it to version 2. It is a rough watch if you go back and watch that video, but I will drop links to all of the videos that I reviewed in case you want to go back and see what I did. I wasn't as seasoned as I am now, but looking at this figure, he did come with the tuner fork, big heavy blaster. It does have a removable magazine, which maybe it is a battery pack and not like an ammo. It is really one of the worst weapons they've offered. Now, it does look really well with a bat, so if you want to put it with a bat, it actually goes pretty well. He comes with his a knife that fits into his plate carrier. Now, my biggest gripe with this figure when I look at him is his feet are a little small for how big the buck is. And I don't have an issue with the gold shin pads and knee pads like so many others do, but the shin pads really do cut into the articulation with the feet. They make him harder to stand. He's easier, obviously, to fall over. He can't lean over as much because you cannot go past a 90 degree, or maybe just a little bit past a 90. All in all, the figure looks really good. I really didn't have too much of an issue with him. I still think this figure pretty much does hold up. In the end, I gave this guy a rating of a number 5 with the G.I. Joe Classified line. So here we are, number 2 in the G.I. Joe Classified line, and that is Snake Eyes once again. Now, what this Snake Eyes is just a repaint of the Deluxe. He is almost all black. There is a little bit of color to him, and there is a red dot on his forehead on the original ones. Now, this is something that did drive a lot of people nuts, which caused them to do a repaint, and I don't consider that another figure where they actually just got rid of it. I won't review that figure or rate that figure because he is just the exact same figure as this one. This one comes in a little bit lower, and you may be asking, well, why, if they're giving you almost the exact same things, would that bother you, and why would you lower it? Well, first off, he doesn't come with the weapons rack, and the boxing and everything is a little bit different. But the things that are similar are the knife, the backpack, and obviously his sword. What doesn't work is that he comes with 2 different guns. One is a pistol that has a big hole in it, and one is his submachine gun or sub blaster that has a big hole in it. And I understand what they were going for. They're made to actually plug onto the figures and onto the backpacks. But where the hole was, it just did not work. It was unfortunately a huge issue. The other gaffe that they did have was with the knife sheath. The knife never fit properly. It actually sticks out. And it was something that they did correct on figures going forward. But what is odd is that it didn't have that with the 00 Snake Eyes, which again still makes very little sense to me what they changed in the mold. But all in all, this is a really good figure. I don't see a reason to run out and spend a lot of money on the 00 Snake Eyes if you just want a version 2 Snake Eyes. I think they did a really nice job with this one. And with him, I gave him a rating of 6 just because of those few little gaffes. Now on to number 3 in the line, and that is Destro. Now I'm going to make no bones about it. I believe that this figure is still one of the best figures that they've made. It's almost to the point where do they really need to make another Destro? But let's get into him because I absolutely love this figure. So starting off with him, you look at him, he has his classic design. It is updated a little bit, but they kept his big collar, which is something that I always hated about the O-ring figure because I love the big collar look. They gave that to him. They gave him his gold medallion. Now, the weapons are a little bit different than what the O-rings are, and that's perfectly fine. And this is the first where I'm going to start saying that some of these futuristic weapons don't bother me because, well, Destro is a weapons manufacturer. And with that comes him creating different styles of weapons for Cobra. Where I look at G.I. Joe, and to me, G.I. Joe is more military, so there would be some futuristic weapons, but for the most part, they would be perfectly fine. Now, starting with his blaster, it doesn't bother me, but I cannot not look at it and not see the Rebel Troopers weapons from A New Hope from Star Wars. As for the briefcase, once you open it up, you can actually see there's detail like right here. And I thought they did a really great job with it. They didn't go all black. They went black with some grays. And his articulating points are really good. He isn't hampered by shin guards, which is great. His neck moves pretty well. No pinless joints yet, and we won't see pinless elbows and knees for quite some time, and as they start to get mixed in. So this still is one of my favorite figures, and I don't even get upset that they haven't done another one yet because I think he's been so good. Uh, at the end of the day, I did put this one at a rating of 8. On to number 4 in the G.I. Joe Classified line, and that is Duke himself. Once again, I did review him and compared him to the original O-ring figure so you can see the design cues that they took. Looking at this guy, you can see that he has his laser rifle. Now, with all that said, I actually like this rifle. Unfortunately, the biggest issue with it is that every single one that I've seen kind of takes this curve looking up. Like it wasn't manufactured to be like that, but it is warped up. But all in all, it looks like a laser M4, or at least in that style. And I really didn't have too much of a problem with it. Again, they were going for a different look and appeal. He does come with the absolute worst weapon, or hand pistol, if that's what you want to call it here, which I will show you. I absolutely hate this weapon. I wish they would go away. I wish they do away with it, and we've discussed this. But he also comes with some really nice looking binoculars that I will also show right here. And as you can see, I thought they did a pretty good job. Even the backpack, you can see that they put the shovel on it, trying to recreate what we had in the 80s. So I really like this figure, and I am not a fan of Duke. I have never been a fan of Duke. Over time, I have grown to appreciate him more and like some of the design cues, but this guy, I thought they did a really good job with him. In the end, I looked at him and I gave him a rating of 7. All right, so here comes number 4 in the G.I. Joe Classified line, and that is Scarlett. And I have to say, she is a very essential character. I think some of the ones that they started with were very essential characters, and she is one of them. With that said, I think this may be the first stinker of the bunch. Unlike many people, I have no issues with the face sculpt. Many people complained about it, said that it looked like a 15-year-old child, that she should be seasoned. Oddly enough, when the retro version came out, everyone said, I'm going to put the original head on it, which made no sense. Now, I am missing 2 of her knives. I wasn't able to find them. I do know that I have them. Now, everything really stuck on her person. She comes with 3 different knives. 2 of them go in the back of her quiver, and then 1 goes up on the front of the quiver, well, the front strap of the quiver. The knives were perfectly fine. The quiver is, I would assume, upside down, as they would have to have some sort of pressure points to hold the bolts into them. She comes with this crossbow, and unfortunately, I don't know why, but the classified team feels the need to make their crossbows break up into 2 most of the time, and this one is no different. it comes off all the time. Now her look is okay. You can see how it fits. They did try and recreate putting throwing stars on her forearms, but she doesn't have double jointed elbows. And I wasn't one of those people that feel everything needs to be pinless right at the beginning, but looking at this, her articulation is really poor, all the way up to her gauntlets that are up on her shoulders. It is hard to get this figure in a lot of good shots. It's not impossible, but it is possible, but it's just not, it's not very easy. So anyway, in the end, I looked at this figure and I thought it looks fine, but the way she moves, what she comes with, I had to give her the ranking of 4. So here we come to number 6 in the line, Cobra Commander. And as you can look at this guy, you can see that he does not fit the same aesthetic as the A Real American Hero version did, and I'm okay with that once again, as Cobra Commander seems like the type who is constantly putting on new suits, trying different things, and has them for different occasions. And this seems more like a ceremonial garb that he might have when he's addressing people, along with the weapons that he does have. So looking at everything, he did come with extra hands. Now, at this point, only 00 Snake Eyes came with an extra hand, which was a throwing star. This, they gave him a pointing hand and then a clawed hand. And if you're collecting G.I. Joe right now, then you realize they're starting to reuse these hands with other figures. The weapons that he does come with is a short sword with a snake on it, along with this more ceremonial pistol that is very Cobraized. I look at this, he has his little cape on the side, and I thought it's pretty good. For the most part, I don't hate this figure. I think it looks good, but the one part that does really bother me are his boots. And it has nothing to do with the looks, but as the toes start to dip up, he starts to fall forward. So this guy can be a harder guy to pose, um, but it is still possible. But those boots have always been problematic in my mind. But again, still a good looking figure. In the end, I gave him a nice rating of 6. All right, sticking with number 6, and this is another Cobra Commander, but this is the Regal version of him. Now, this is the only repaint that I'm putting in here because, yes, he is different. And I mean that in a few different ways. So quickly, his whole paint scheme is different. And he does come in a more classic blue, where the other Cobra Commander was more of what his hooded version would be, but they're not doing a hooded version. So take that for what it is. He comes all with the exact same stuff. So I kind of get random there. The same sword, ceremonial type, same ceremonial type pistol. They do give them a different paint job. So they're more gold. Again, same finger pointing and everything like that. But there are a few different things on this figure, and it's more on the box. And I will show you right here. And what you can actually see is that the numbers are shaded differently, which to me means they changed the box, they fully changed the color, and they actually gave this guy a name, which was the Cobra Commander Regal version. The other thing that was really problematic about this was supposed to be released on some weird app that everyone was trying to get on it, and the thing completely collapsed. It crashed, and if I remember correctly, that website is completely gone. In the end, they put it on Hasbro Pulse, and some people were able to get it. And this figure actually still goes for a pretty decent price up on eBay. So, in the end, I gave the other Cobra Commander a rating of 6. I gave this one a rating of 7, just because of the difficulty of getting him, how they changed it, and I actually think the colors look a little bit better. Now on to number 7 in the G.I. Joe Classified line, and that is Gung Ho, who was always one of my favorite figures growing up. I look at this figure, I love that they made him big. He's on the same buck that Roadblock is. So other than Serpentor and now Nemesis Immortal and Road Pig, these are the biggest figures that you're going to find. And yes, they are bigger than Sergeant Slaughter and Bazooka, although they share a lot of the same parts. Both their legs and upper bodies are bigger than the rest. Uh, I didn't mind the color change. I actually thought it was pretty good. And I didn't even mind the tattoo that's on his chest. Now, would it have been nice had they gone to the Marines and got the rights to do it? Yes, because that's what he was pretty iconic for. But unfortunately, Hasbro didn't want to do that. The green was a nice change. They have the vest. It looks more armorized. He has lots of grenades on him. But where this guy's downfall truly is once again the small feet and the shin guards, not because they're shin guards, but how they affect the articulation in the feet. But his weapons. These were all laser weapons, and as you can see, I'm actually missing one of them. I'm not sure where it is. Now you can take these weapons and you can use them on the bats, and they actually look pretty good on some of the bats, to be honest. The color scheme works with them, and they would be more futuristic. But with this guy having a grenade launcher, they gave him one, as you can see right there, and it just doesn't work. The backpack was big. They tried to make it so everything could hold on, everything he could carry on his person. But in the end, the guns were a complete fail as they just reused them for the first time, I believe. Uh, and nobody really cared. I think most people had forgotten that this figure had been out for so long. So anyway, in the end, I did give him a rating of 6 because I really liked the buck and the sculpt, but the weapons brought everything down. Now on to number 8 in the G.I. Joe Classified line, and that is the Red Ninja. Now, this was kind of an odd move to go with, veering away from your classic characters. I didn't mind them doing that, as this is a decent character, but it does have some flaws. Now, he does reuse most of Snake Eyes' buck, but there's a lot of overlay. They also pretty much gave him every single weapon that came with the Snake Eyes Deluxe sword-wise, other than Snake Eyes' classic sword. No guns, but all those things that sat on the weapons rack, they gave to this guy. Not only did they do that, they made it so he can actually carry every single one of them on his person. Uh, in the end, some of the overlay does affect the articulation a bit, but all in all, it's not a bad figure. My biggest issue is the head sculpt, and this was problematic from the moment I saw it. It is almost impossible to figure out what it is. It almost looks like it is a robotic face, but it's actually supposed to be a mask, if I believe so. The other thing that bothers me is if you go get a Marvel Legends hand ninja, the red is the exact same, and the head looks that much better. So when you pop that off the hand ninja and you pop it on this, the figure looks that much better. If that is how it looked, I would have this guy actually ranked a little bit higher. But the fact that he comes with so many different weapons, he makes for an awesome army builder because you don't have to have someone running around with the exact same weapons. So in the end, I looked at this guy and I did give him a rating of 6 when it comes to this. On to number 9 in the G.I. Joe Classified line, and that is Snake Supreme Cobra Commander. And I really do like this figure. So he uses the same buck as the other 2 Cobra Commanders, but with the change of giving him a cape, different weapons, really makes this figure stand out. Now, once again, he comes with a bunch of hands, including a world domination globe. He comes with a small scepter. He still comes with his blade, but he also comes with his customary blow dryer laser pistol. And I will say it again, this pistol is better than the one that comes with the Hiss Cobra Commander or the retro carded Cobra Commander, and they should have just reused it. It is gold, so once again, very ceremonial. It's very ceremonial. He has the cape, and it is a soft goods cape that when you look at it, it does form the look of a snake's tongue. So I absolutely love this figure. He is one that still ranks very high, and after Stake Eyes, he was the first one that had a different style of packaging. Looking at this guy quickly, he was a Pulse exclusive, so that was the only place that you could get him, and he has maintained his value. So if you're looking to get him, you're still looking to spend roughly $60, I believe, on him. Something like that. So it is a wonderful figure in my opinion. I still look at him as, if you're going to have one kind of coming out to address your Cobra Troopers, this is the person that would be doing it. In the end, I did give him a rating of 8, which again is very high in my opinion. On to number 10, which is Beachhead, and this was the first Cobra Island exclusive, which meant it was a Target exclusive, and it started the hate for Target. If anyone was collecting back in 2020, they will remember how much people hated Target and the distribution and how poorly it was handled. Of course, we were coming into a pandemic, so I think there's a lot more reasons for the issues. But looking at this figure, and I do remember reviewing him, comparing to the O-ring. Now, first things first, I will say I forgot to give him his beret, which is right here. So this is what he came with. His backpack comes with the crossbow, which is much like the O-ring in the original, and he does have a knife that sheaths onto his boot. He suffers from some of the same issues that we had with the other figures, and that is the unfortunate issue with the shin guards, which prevent a lot of articulation, getting the figures to lean a little bit further. So he is a little bit harder to pose, and we'll see this as this goes on. But this was still early on in the line, so it is kind of why I give it more of a free pass, or more of a pass than others. Now, where does he suffer from? Well, the first thing is he comes with that poor sidearm that we already discussed. And then he comes with one of the worst weapons ever. And from what I understand, this is an actual Nerf gun. And from what I was told is that their hope was kids would collect this. They would be like, wow, that gun's really cool. They make a Nerf version of it. This is an awful gun. And if you are still using it, you either just have to have your figure complete, or you just don't care. But either way, there are other weapons that you can get for him. It really does bring him down, but not enough to really mark this figure down too much. So in the end, I look at this figure and I did give him a rating of 7. Okay, now on to number 11, which is Cobra Island Roadblock. And this is one of my least liked figures. And everyone looked at him and said, it's heavy duty. And there is a story behind that, and I will tell that before I finish up. So, looking at this figure, he is just a redo of Roadblock, and obviously the buck of Gung Ho. Although he does not have any plate carrier or anything like that. They just make it so he's wearing a tank top. It has the G.I. Joe on it. They did give him a new head sculpt, along with some sunglasses that actually work. Big bushy beard, and once again he comes with the tuner fork that also has a removable magazine, which if you look, I forgot to plug it in before I started doing the video. The figure does look decent, and everyone wants to call him heavy duty. Now, I had Lenny on, and if you don't know who Lenny is, he is the designer of G.I. Joe, and I asked him, hey, did you ever think about calling that Roadblock heavy duty? And he said, nope, that was never the intention. And that is because, and he never discussed this, and this is one of the problems not having a file card, is that the way that he envisioned it is that he was on Cobra Island for months, and he's grown out this big beard. You know, he doesn't have the plate carrier on. He's been out there, and if you look, he's actually wearing a chef's hat or a chef's cap on top of him. So that's actually what the hat is that he is wearing, and that was his explanation on it. And I think it really put things to rest, at least with some people. And then there were some people that still said, I'll still call it heavy duty. I said, you can call it whatever you want, but that is what the designer wanted. In the end, I looked at this figure and I had to give him a 4 because I just don't like heavy duty to begin with, and I didn't really care for this figure at all. On to number 12 in the line, and that is the Cobra Trooper. And let me just say, this was a huge point of contention because once again, this was the Cobra Island version and Target exclusive, and they were army builders, or at least that's what people wanted. And to say this figure was hard to get for quite some time, and hell, it still is hard to find just by looking at the price of him. I can understand why people were upset. Now, they really did try to veer away from the actual aesthetics of the other one. Now, you look at the Real American Hero, and they do have the same colors, but they gave him this wonderful face mask in this classified line, which I love. I thought it was great. They tried to recreate the sniper rifle. That is the big rifle that is on his back there. And then they gave him a smaller, what I guess you would consider a submachine gun. Now, these were all considered blasters. And there is something that I was told about the rectangular or square blast, and that was handed down by Hasbro, that they weren't allowed to do round tips. That is not completely accurate because, once again, Destro has it, but most of their guns that they were called blasters. They don't have round tips, so that is why you don't see any ports or blast effects for quite some time until the line progresses. Now, this guy did come with uh, a sleeve for his shoulder. He came with two little pistols that were more futuristic. I can deal with it. And he also came with these little red goggles that when you look at the eyes, they kind of give you like snake eyes. His helmet does come off. And once again, the helmet is awesome. He still does suffer from the boots, which is the problem. And I will continue to reiterate the problem with the shin guards and the boots causing articulation. My one gripe about this figure is with the two weapons, and not so much that the weapons, but they both have pegs on them, and that was there so you could put the weapons on the person, and they could stay on them, wouldn't have to carry them. Unfortunately, the pegs just look stupid. They stand out. It is the only thing that I don't like, but because I need to keep my figures in, at least one figure in proper use, as complete as possible, I refuse to cut them off. So in the end, though, I really like this figure. Really, I mean, a lot. I wish they would do an O-ring version of it. And I gave him a rating of 8. On to number 13, which is the Baroness with C.O.I.L motorcycle. Now, I am not rating the vehicles. I will do that in a later video, but I have to say that that is one of the most useless vehicles that they came out with. So, quickly looking at this figure, and if you remember, once again, part of the Cobra Island set, this one was extremely hard to get, to the point that they were selling for $250 aftermarket. This thing was so hard to find, and when they finally released it, it drove down that price. And to the point where I even got a free one when I had an issue with a RAM cycle. But let's look at this figure, and I have to say, the aesthetic of her looks pretty good. It's not a bad looking figure. The glasses are molded on. I have no problems with that. Her hair really does obstruct her head from moving at all, and she comes with a knife from with a little snake head on top of it, and then with those two awful blaster pistols. Now, as what you can see, what she's holding there, it is an actual snake gun. It seems pretty useless, and to be honest, it is, but it is kind of a cool little caveat that they have. I actually put it on Snake Supreme's little throne. I have two of them, so one goes on either side. Once again, this figure does not have double elbows. She doesn't articulate very well at the shoulders. She looks good, but there is just so much wrong, not to mention everything that comes with this coil. So in the end, unfortunately, I had to look at this figure, and I gave her a rating of 4 because it was just so disappointing. And later on, when they fixed the arms, she's much better. And on to number 14, which is Arctic Mission Storm Shadow. Now, let me just explain this. This is actually version 3 Storm Shadow in the Real American Hero line. This was the first Storm Shadow that we got in the line, and it was an Amazon exclusive. So yes, it is pretty pricey on the aftermarket. I looked at this figure and there are a few things that I have a huge problem with. Number one is that big giant logo in the back on his box, and that is Cobra. He is clearly a G.I. Joe at this point, and in my opinion, Storm Shadow is more G.I. Joe than Cobra. But in this iteration, he was G.I. Joe. Now, if you also look on this figure, there is no Cobra logo or insignia on him at all, and I think they knew that. I think they wanted to get a Storm Shadow out there, but they didn't want to do the version they were originally going to do for Classified, which is way different, or a classic style looking one, so they went with him also being the Amazon exclusive. Now, he does suffer from, for some odd reason, he is missing some boot cuts, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, and it does make it harder for him to stand. The weapons that he comes with are actually pretty good. He's got a nice quiver, the bow looks good, he has a hook with a string on it, and then obviously he has his sword and sheath and along with a sickle. His articulation is really what prevents him from being like one of the top figures in the end. But his aesthetics, the way that he looks, I am perfectly fine with. But he's also just not Cobra, but that's only the box. Also being an Amazon exclusive. Why I was able to get this figure, I don't even know, because I don't remember how deep I was into collecting. But I did get him. In the end, I gave him a nice rating of 7, which once again I think is pretty high up there. All right, on to number 15, which is Profit Director Destro, and this was a fan channel exclusive. Now, there was a version of this Destro later on in the G.I. Joe line, and you see all the leopard, and it was a really weird look. But again, a fan channel exclusive, which I think is the right way to go. It's not a Destro you would absolutely need. It is one that you would want if you're either a completist or maybe you just really like this type of figure. He does come with, as you can see, that cape, which is plastic. It doesn't move very well. He also comes with glasses, and let me reiterate, these glasses here, which are a little oversized, they are awesome. Why the Hasbro team is no longer using this plastic to make glasses like this, I don't understand. He does come with his revolver, which is a more of a futuristic type revolver. He comes with burning money, and then he also comes with the same briefcase, just in gold, and you can see it here. And I thought they did a wonderful job of putting stuff on the inside of these briefcases, both of them. It just gives it a little bit more, so if Destro is here and he's doing some transactions, you can see exactly what he's doing. Now, this Destro is not for everyone. I understand that, but that is why they have the original one. Now, he has the same aesthetic. He does look good. So I looked at this figure, and because I like the other Destro so much, and I like the accessories that this guy came with, in the end, I gave him a rating of 7. Now on to number 16 in the G.I. Joe Classified line, and that is the Snake Eyes Origins from the movie. And I know people are going to say right away, you shouldn't even review that figure. It's not really classified, but it is. It has a numerical value on it, which is number 16, so it is part of the classified line. Now, I am not looking at the movie. You can think what you want about the movie. I'm looking at the actual figure. And to be honest, I actually think that this figure looks pretty good. I think the mask is really nice. I think it is a nice turn on the version 2 Snake Eyes with the visor. He comes with his sword that he uses in the movie, and then he comes with 2 daggers. Where I do see issues is I feel like the plastic felt a little bit different, and they don't have thigh cuts. This guy does not have a thigh cut, which definitely does cause issues when posing him. He also comes with the face of the actor. Now, in my opinion, Snake Eyes, you really shouldn't see his face ever, so I would never use that anyway. So that's just going to be something that sits in the box, actually, along with this figure who has been retired. But all in all, this is not a bad figure, and yes, they were going for $5 eventually, but these figures sat on the shelves for a long, long time. In the end, it's a decent figure. It's good for fodder, and I did give him a rating of 5. On to number 17 in the G.I. Joe Classified line, and that is Storm Shadow from the Snake Eyes Origins movie. Now, I don't believe that this figure is as bad as some people think that it is, but I also don't think that it is great. We can first look at the color, and we can ask the question why he isn't more white. That I cannot figure out. He also seems to be in a harder plastic, at least from what I can tell, which gives him more of a sheen, almost like the old O-ring figures. But to me, his biggest issue is that for some odd reason, he doesn't have a boot cut. Now, why the boot cuts were something that they tried to eliminate on these figures, I don't understand. But these guys are ninjas. They should be able to move in more spectacular poses than other figures, and maybe it was just because it was due to the line. Now, he does come with 2 different swords, and along with, I can't call it a sheath, but a piece that pegs into his back that can hold them. Now, these swords have been used numerous times, so clearly I believe they're actually pretty good swords, and I don't see it really stopping anytime soon. He does come with the actor's head from the movie, and I actually like that. I've had that up on a diorama with a classic Storm Shadow so you could see his face, and I think it works pretty good because I don't really see the actor as much in it as just a regular faced character. And Storm Shadow was one that we did see his face. So unlike Snake Eyes, it doesn't bother me that we have his face. In the end, not the worst figure, but definitely not a great figure. I gave him a 5 rating. On to number 18 of the line, who is also part of the Snake Eyes Origins movie, and that is Akiko. Now, I don't hate this figure like so many others do. I actually feel it is a good character, and I would like to see her brought into the lore elsewhere. First off, I am missing one of her weapons. I'm not sure where it is at, but it is somewhere within my bin of weapons. It started off, I think she looks pretty good, and I think she fits in with the other ninjas. I have no issues putting her in with Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes, all those other ninjas that we have. Now, looking at her, where does she come? Where do the problems come? Well, once again, we don't have double elbows. Again, I can overlook the pinless. At this point, it wasn't a big issue. We're still in, 2021. But she doesn't articulate all that much. The biggest problem is her boots and her heels, or lack thereof heels. They're supposed to look like heels. They would be bent in the box so she wouldn't stand. As you can see, I don't even try and stand her. And since I don't use stands, I just have her kneeling in a fighting position in my display. And she does still sit in my display. All in all, she's not a bad looking figure, but there is so much more to be desired in a ninja. But she does fit in with your Arashikage clan if that's what you want. I gave her a rating of 4. And number 19 in the G.I. Joe Classified line also comes from the Snake Eyes Origins movie, and that is the Baroness. Now, I'm going to start off by saying I believe that this was the best looking Baroness for quite some time. I thought they did a really good job with it. The face sculpt does match what the actual character is in the movie pretty well. She does have removable glasses, which are actually really sturdy, and they're meant to peg into her hair so you don't have to worry about them falling off. One of the major issues is the choker chain and the neck. The neck just looks really long. Don't have a huge problem with the choker chain. As you can see, she's able to stand up without a problem. And she does come with these 2 big daggers or mini swords. The one thing she does come with is one of the best weapons, best guns that the G.I. Joe team has still produced, along with a suppressor. And we've seen it on a few other figures, including the Crimson Twins and a few others. I absolutely love this gun, and it actually fits her pretty well. It's not too large. It's not small. It fits pretty good. But once again, the lack of double elbows causes a problem. But she does look good. Unfortunately, her skin tone and the neck don't match with the other figure, so you have to do a pretty good some pretty good customizing to make it work properly using the other head. But all in all, I really like this figure. Don't have a problem with it, and you can still fit it in with the rest of your G.I. Joes, not just the movie ones. I did give her a rating of 6. And number 20 in the G.I. Joe Classified line is the final figure from the Snake Eyes Origins movie, and that is Scarlett. Now, I look at this figure and I think it actually looks pretty good. I like the color scheme. It is different, and you can use her in any type of classified line diorama that you want. The face sculpt does look enough like the actress that you can tell when someone points it out to you, but it also doesn't look too much like an actress that you can't see it as just a G.I. Joe character itself. She does suffer from the exact same things that all the females do, and that is she doesn't have double jointed elbows, which causes a lot of issues when it comes to trying to pose a figure in a shooting position or fighting position. The other thing that is disappointing is she comes with only this crossbow. Now, I do think this crossbow may be the best crossbow that the G.I. Joe Classified line has made. It is small, doesn't take up much room. Best of all, it is not in two different, doesn't come in 2 different pieces, which is a huge problem because they tend to break apart. Both Scarletts have this issue. But it is the only thing she comes with. This is approaching Marvel Legends style, lack of accessories when you look at her. So in the end, it is a decent figure to have on your shelf in a display if you want. And I did give her a 5 rating. All right, so there you go. That is my ratings of the first G.I. Joes all the way up to number 20. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I want you to keep in mind that this is coming from a different time. Tooling was different. Brands were different. There weren't other companies pushing G.I. Joe and Hasbro in general to be a better figure making company. But please, down in the description, tell me what you guys think. Tell me if you think the ratings were off. What, and what you didn't like about it. I love to have a good conversation, and please don't be a big a-hole about it. These are our opinions. It's not some definitive ranking or rating system that, oh my God, we all have to follow. But as I always like to say, if you're still here, please take a second. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you're notified every time I drop a G.I. Joe video. Now, please, if you are so inclined to, up here, you're going to see another video of G.I. Joe Classified, and down here will be the playlist of all the G.I. Joe stuff that I've done. Take care.